Okay. Let's go. Test. Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome to All About Branding. I'm your host, Frank, as always in this podcast. And this is a podcast and a YouTube live stream that is all about branding. Funnily enough, absolute shocker, I know. I'm in a good mood tonight because it is my 34th birthday. I'm an absolute workaholic, and here I am showing up to create the content that I said I would. Now, to get going here, it's a new year. It's 2022. I just put up my content calendar on the wall this afternoon. I got it back from the printers. You can check that out on my links and whatever. I'm not going to go into that today because what we want to do at the start of each year is a good time to assess what we have going on with our brands, our businesses, our presence, maybe if you're a personal brand, and try to find a bit of clarity, maybe a new direction, a new beginning, or to lean into the things that we have been doing so well and making more of the same. Now, given it's a new year, we want to refresh, we want to reintroduce, we want to renew everything that starts with the word re, or just add re at the start of every word. Maybe not every word, but I think at this kind of stage, if you're a little unsure, let's say, of where you're at, where you're going especially, then we want to analyze where 2020 is going to be for you, for your team, for your brand, for your business, for your consumers, no matter if they're your customers, your clients, your audience. We want to be able to create, what I call at least, captivating moments of connection and do so with clarity. That's my definition of how we do branding and do it well, to be who we need to be for those that want a part of what we have to offer. Jargon aside, the first question I want to ask you here is whether or not you believe anything here needs to change. If you need to do anything new, if you do need to do more of the same or not. That pause aside, if you don't need to do anything more, good on you, but I hazard a guess not. You can by all means stop this stream, you can stop this YouTube video, you can stop this podcast and go on your merry way. That's totally fine. But I hazard a guess that there is something there to be done. There's always room for improvement with what we have going with our brand, because a brand is an ever-evolving thing that sometimes we can't just grasp. It may be a little bit intangible sometimes. And we want to create always a greater impact with those that are consuming what we have to offer, and make something that they can remember, that they want to come back for, they want to buy again, they want to tell somebody about. So what can we do, essentially? So if this is you, let's press on. If it's not, fair warning, you might get a little bored. So you can chuff off whenever you need to. Chuff off isn't what you think it means. It just means you can go. So let's make this an actionable resource. Like I've said in this article that you might have seen on my blog, you can catch it there, g'dayfrank.com/blog. It's the first article there. Is I want to give you 6 actionable steps that you can take, things you can do immediately in the next week or two, even the next, tomorrow you could even do some of these things. It might even play out through the whole of the year ahead. So it gives you some bit of homework, I guess, to work on your business, along with educating your team, building up their confidence, all these kind of things you can do that can influence and positively influence your brand. So I want to give you 6 tips that I think are some things that I'm looking to work on and some things I've already started on working on, but also things I could see that many brands, businesses, and even fellow creatives could be doing potentially better. So no matter what bucket you fit in, be it creative, be it a business owner, be it a personal brand, I think these can apply to you no matter what. Now, let's get stuck right in here. I'm going to start with my top 3, like you will have seen in the article if you have read it already. And this is going to be no news to you. But the first one is to assess what worked and what didn't in 2021. For me, 2021 wasn't a great year. I've talked about this in a couple of pieces of content that I put out earlier this year, in the last couple of weeks. It was a bit of a shit one. I got to be honest with you. And I've understood what worked and what didn't. And sometimes it's a gut feeling. Sometimes that's looking at data, looking at analyzing your sales and leads and tracking all the different engagement points you've had and assessing what needs to be done better or what you shouldn't be doing again, kind of thing. There's a few things that I've learned, and we do learn along the way, obviously, in business, in branding, whatever it is, in life. This is the school of life, as I kind of call it, and that's what my grandfather always taught me. His name is Frank, and that's where my name Frank comes from. It's my middle name. Now, in terms of assessing what did and didn't work, this is the crucial step of a brand strategy, is to do and dive into, I guess, this analysis, this diagnosis of where the problem is or what the goal is and how we can work backwards from that end goal. And so for me working with my clients, it's like understanding what do we want to do here to achieve this and what's got in the way of that in the past, or what do we think could be getting in the way of us if we do go ahead with this to make this our year and subsequently year after year, 2023, 2024, on and on and on. So I think in terms of this, some things might be just, leaning into what you've already done well already. And for me, at least, it's creating content that's done well for me. It's generated leads and things like that. And it might just be me creating 10% more content or adding 10% more energy to the way that I communicate. These little things can amount and compound to some really great things. So I guess some things to look at here. The first would be what products were being sold more or less than others. And then, does it come down to how you marketed them, good or bad? You do a bit of a strengths and weaknesses kind of thing. It's not something I really want to lean into too much. It's just kind of some points that may or may not be working that can influence and positively influence and make an impact on your brand to your consumers. What content does your audience respond to most? Another one is what drove the most traffic to your website or to a blog post or to a sales page, and what that lead conversion rate was, what click-through rates were like, what your call to actions that generated more click-throughs. All this is very jargony, and I should stress this, that I don't want to go into too much detail here. This is very top line. So do a Google search on some of these terms: call to actions, click-through rates, lead gen, all these things. I guess in business, you probably likely know all these terms already, so I don't want to confuse, but these are some of the things we need to assess. So if that's where you're at and it's all a bit too much, I understand it. I'm still trying to figure it out half the time, but I've been there, done that, I guess. I'm still trying to figure it out along the way. And this is where we're at. We're trying to analyze. We're trying to determine what we need to do next. Some other things you can do that's actionable that you might not have an insight into already that might reveal some results is the classic surveys, interviews with past clients, existing customers, loyal customers. Get on the phone with them, send them an email saying, how's your new year going? How was your Christmas break? We're just doing a bit of research to analyze how we can do better for you and for others like you is there something that you believe we could do better? Or be quite targeted in what kind of question that you ask, so that you can get some quantitative data, like, stats and figures of click-throughs and engagement rates and how many people shared and liked your post on Instagram. But then you can have qualitative data of what your customers are saying about you. It might not even need a survey. It might be just looking at your reviews, your testimonials, and seeing what people are saying and find correlating words and experiences that they've had to try and find what's working and what isn't working. 5-star ratings can be a very eye-opening experience for a customer to see whether or not you're the kind of business or brand to go with. I mean, just me looking up a restaurant to go for my lunch today for my birthday lunch. I was looking at reviews at this particular place and it was giving me a bit of a iffy kind of sense, but it worked out all well. The reviews didn't really paint a great picture. So you give and take what you're given and try and best assess what's going to be most helpful for you moving forward. And by doing this kind of exercise, it can dictate what kind of actions you take from here. So I'd say, whether or not it proves to be very helpful for you is going to be up to what kind of results you come back from this, or what you feel at least is down in your gut. If you're the founder, you're the CEO, you're the owner of the business, you're the big head of what it is your brand is. You take that and you work with it, especially if that next step for you is going to mean a heap of work, or to get out of your shell, or need to do an absolute ton of advertising or marketing. We need to kind of do this kind of first step, just like a doctor would you go to a doctor's surgery and I got a bung knee and doctor, whatnot, and he asks you, well, what have you been doing the last few days? Did you do any strenuous exercise? Just eliminating things that can get you to the point of what the problem was, or where the goal is, or what you want to do, and kind of work backwards or work through the problem to get to the result that you want. So for more brand strategy processes, the steps that come after this, I'm going to be covering that the next All About Branding episode, live stream, article, all my content basically. Each week is a different topic. In the next topic is going to be about a good, solid brand strategy process that you can use for your own business, for your own personal brand, whatever you have going, and make this next step actionable that you take after the analysis diagnosis phase. So that's number one. Number two is, what do we want to be most known for? Like most known for, not just only known for, but most known for in 2022. It's, I got to say, a really hard one to pick. I don't think I've really nailed down one thing for me. It could be my face. It could be the color that I use, this pink. You might see it here if you're watching the YouTube live stream, of the little notch on my microphone here. Using pink like it's going out of fashion is something that has become a bit of a calling card, a bit of a hallmark of what my brand is to others, so that when they see pink, anywhere else in other different contexts, they might think of me. I've had a few people who have said that in really weird instances. It might be just the name of your business. It might be the packaging, similarities between things that they see out there to make them remember you, to remember what experience they had with you, be it fond, maybe not be fully positive sometimes, but we want to try and make it the most aspirational thing that we can to be a positive experience, to be something that they want to remember. And this is something that with your consumers, your audience, your clients, your customers, we want to try and leave them with one thing, or at least kind of three things at most, which is something that I've learned from a real marketing, he's a professor, but he's an absolute kind of guru, I guess, in the marketing space. His name is Mark Ritz, and you can find some great YouTube videos about his teachings on marketing and brand strategy and all the rest of it. But his concept is 3 brain cells in someone's mind. What can we leave them with? Because that's probably all they have to retain what your brand is to them, to make it something that is useful for them to want to remember. They might not need you now, but when the time comes, it's you. And I've employed this into how I operate with my clients to help them understand what is a likely thing that we can lean into and press into, so that way it's drummed into their consumers' minds to be most known for. So you can influence this, and this is where I think there's a quote that goes around and saying it's not what, a brand is not what you say it is, it's what they say it is. I think that's a Jeff Bezos quote. And I think that's a little bit naive in thinking that. There's a little bit more to it where you can influence the experience and what someone remembers you for and engages with you by. So you have this opportunity, and there's a responsibility to do that well. Now, how you do that is tricky, but it's picking things that you think is going to be most suited to your type of consumer and leaning into those points that you feel is something that's going to be best reflective of what brand you want to put out into the world, and have that point of communication to create those captivating moments to connect with your audience, to connect with your clients, customers, whoever you are connecting with, and occupy that space so that when someone thinks I need a tissue, what brand do they think of? Kleenex. When I need fast food, no matter where I'm in the world, a safe bet, McDonald's. What are you going to be to your customers?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Thanks, Siri. She doesn't know either. So some ideas for you here. Could you be known for your team showing up consistently on something like social media? So you could appear in direct messages. Your customers, your audience might send you a direct message. Is someone there to respond and be on point time after time to respond and give, the answer to the question, or to be there when someone says, I really love what you did there, love that post, or I love that product you put out there, well done, all the rest of it, or they share your content and you can say thank you, and you build up that rapport. Is somebody going to be there to be on call and always show up? That's huge for some people, because some people say even to me, oh my God, you replied to my DM. I didn't think you'd ever reply. And I was like, why not? I reply to everyone's message. And I think that's a respectful thing to do if you have the time and the capability to do so. And you might need a social media manager to do that. That's okay. If you can't manage it yourself, then yes, it can be a bit of a hard ask, but that's one kind of idea. The other is the brand experience your customers are receiving something to do with your packaging? A really great unboxing experience that someone has that goes, wow, like that is as good as the product that I've just bought. I'm beyond thrilled to receive this. And it becomes a statement piece for them to remember you by, that hallmark thing that they just can't not remember you, can't forget you. And this is something I've strived for with working with my wife to develop her evening clay jewelry brand. We give a nice boxing experience that is reflective of what kind of brand she wants to put out there. It's very homemade, handmade craft, but with attention to detail, bit of love, and sharing a story. And then with one of my clients, she has a greeting card company. I can't really say it on here because it's profanity laden name. But her unboxing experience and the packaging that she has, there's confetti, there's gold foil stickers, there's black envelopes, there's tissue paper. Everything's going on, and it's a really interesting experience that leaves and creates a reaction to what someone is going to remember that person for. And that kind of leans into this whole idea of what are you going to be most known for? It could be even just having a voucher in there in your packaging. If you're a consumer-based business, obviously, but having a voucher in there to purchase again, to encourage that sale, or to buy one get one free for a friend or something like that. It's a great opportunity to just create these extra experiences that someone isn't expecting. But when they do receive it, it's a welcome, non-expected instance. And then you've got to kind of follow up with that. You've got to keep meeting that expectation. You can't just drop the ball and go, oh, no, sorry, don't do that anymore. You've got to kind of either keep it at or improve every time, which is hard to keep up. And this is why branding and brand building can be challenging. Another idea is that, by getting on the front foot early here, if you're the type of business that can do this, especially, connect with your existing customers, your existing consumers directly. At the end of the year, we all send Christmas messages and saying, thanks so much for working with us this year, or thanks for buying from us this year. Wish you all in the holiday season, all the rest of it. Get back there. Get back in front of their faces. Like now, this is something you can do tomorrow. Draft an email saying, hey, thanks so much for working with us last year. This year, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. It's been a great start. I hope it has for you. I'm really, really interested in working with you again in 2022. Or if it's, buying more things here, we've got a great collection of new things coming out here. You might be interested in it. We've got a whole new line of services, courses coming out. Stay in tune here. Here's a newsletter that might keep you updated, or here's some content that we've been creating that might be helpful for you into the lead up of us releasing that. Keep them in the loop. Keep you top of mind and stay there in people's minds. But if you want to be known for something, a handwritten letter sometimes can be game changing. I sent out a heap of Christmas cards at the end of the year and put individual sentiments in there for each of my clients to say, Merry Christmas, thank you for working with me together, and I look forward to working with you in the new year. And sometimes that, coupled with maybe something to leave them with, something to remember, a little piece there. For me, I put a heap of confetti in mine, so it went everywhere for them, and they're never going to forget that. They probably want to get me back for it, I think, a few of them. But just that on its own can be something that can leave that lasting impression that you've gone above and beyond, something that they weren't expecting, to get in touch and create something that's captivating. It's got their attention, and it's creating a connection. So that's the first 2 points out of the way. The third point is to show your face. I drum on about this quite a bit. I don't understand why we're not doing more of it, because I think when we're interacting in person, we can't help but do so. If we go to a business meeting, or we go to an event, or we go to a birthday party, we don't go up with some square box around us that shields who we are, that it has a logo on the front of it, and we go we see each other's faces. This is how we interpret each other's emotions, the intonation that we're talking, if we're genuine or if we're just full of shit. We want to connect on a human to human basis, and obviously we have this online barrier there, but my God, there's a camera on every device now, just about. If it's your phone, if it's your computer, if it's your iPad, if it's your fridge, if it's an Alexa device, and my Alexa's probably going to go off now. No, all good. We have that opportunity to connect visually. We're visual creatures, obviously. We have 2 eyes, we have 2 ears, and we have a nose and mouth, obviously. We can talk till the cows come home. But that visual side of things can really create that connection. It can build that trust, build that rapport over time, or even in short periods, more so than just typing on a page with your logo and saying, this is what we do, this is how we do it, buy from us. The amount of businesses I see, and even fellow creatives, that don't have a face to the name of the business, to the team, they don't share anything about themselves on their website, social media. It's perplexing. I gotta say, it's really perplexing. And if you think it's a way to make you have this amazing opportunity, and it's an advantage to you to be somebody that can do this, can interact on a human level, and you have this opportunity to create these memorable connections by showing your face, showing up, being present, and engaging with people directly. If you have the time to do so, even if it's just, a photograph, it lets people in to see who they're buying from, who they're connecting with, and it can lead to greater things. I gotta say, I hid behind my logo for so long on social media, not so much in the content, I guess, because I started putting myself in photos and things, like posts, but the avatar, the profile image, was my logo. And if you're a team, obviously put your logo there, that's totally fine. But if you're a personal brand and you have your personal brand logo there, change it to your face. I got to say, straight up, change it to your face. Even if someone doesn't recognize what your actual name is and all they see is your handle, so like mine @G'dayFrank, they at least see your face and they can remember you by your face. And that's how that person remembers you, by just seeing that. I don't know if you're like me, that's exactly how I remember people. Not so much their name, I remember people by their handles. It's terrible. But I think it's a competitive advantage to be able to engage with people like this. And especially if you're a small business here. Now, back to my point here is onto social media. This is important because the key term in social media, I think a lot of people lose sight of, is one word out of social media. I'll let you guess which one it is. Starts with an S, followed by an O, CIAL. Social. We need to be we're social creatures, for goodness sake. And we do so visually for a lot of the time, for those who are able to see one another. And we want to have this social connection, and it relies on knowing who we're engaging with. We rather engage with people rather than faceless brands, I got to say. I do, at least personally. Maybe you do as well. And I think it's a great opportunity to do it now rather than later, because the way I see it, putting that face to your brand is doing a couple of really good things here. And I kind of touched on it slightly just a second ago, but your consumers will know who they're going to be dealing with before they walk into that shop, before they send you an email, before they send you a direct message on Instagram, before they even comment on something on Facebook or click on your ad, whatever it might be. This can be a plus for you, big time, especially for you or your team. This creates empathy to know who they're dealing with, that it's not just some corporation like we're dealing with Apple or whatever. But Apple makes it a human experience. You go at any touch point there's a human face involved. And it's not technology. You're not dealing just with technology. There's a person there to help you, to sell you something that you need to buy, that you want to buy. And this can be for you, I guess, something that can solve tricky points as well, where if somebody's having a hard time here, there's a problem happening, maybe it's with their phone or whatever, and they're getting really frustrated, or it's with their order that they've had online and it's not what they thought it was going to be or whatever, and they're really kind of irate because it's really pissed them off. It's ruined their day. And if they know who they're dealing with, and it's like, Frank, what you've sent me is just broken in the mail. Can you fix it? Rather than, g'day, Frank, I want my money back. This thing was broken. This is terrible. I want it now. Like, there's a difference in there, and I think that really comes down to knowing who you're dealing with, if there's a person behind it. And this is why I think a lot of call centers now are really heavily invested back into the people that are connecting with their customers, rather than sending it offshore to randoms that have no idea and they're just reading off a script, that kind of thing. Bringing back that connection so that it feels like they're dealing with somebody. And that can be, that big plus for you. And that can become something, as I said before, something you're known for, that you show up, that you're present, that you're always there. Like a really great example here. I got a Ring doorbell, one of the video doorbells that you can get for your home, from my in-laws for my Christmas/birthday kind of present, because they're so goddamn close together. On the box is the email address of the CEO. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I don't have the box with me. But his email is there on every single box for you to engage with him if there's something wrong with your Ring or you want to offer some feedback. It's kind of like what Steve Jobs had. Everyone knew his email was steve@apple.com. You could send him an email and sometimes he might reply if you were lucky. So having these opportunities for you to be present and someone knows who you are can help them interact with you and feel confident in choosing you before they engage with your services. So for my clients, seeing me on camera, seeing my photos, seeing my videos, hearing my podcast, my voice, and getting a sense of who I am, and hopefully if I come across authentically to them, that will give them the confidence to maybe want to work with me. to help them do what they need to do in their business. And I've had some people that have stalked me for a year, not engaged with anything and just watched. You never know who's watching sometimes, or listening, or looking, and come to me after a year and say, Frank, I really want to work with you. Now's the time. Do you have the time to help me out creating this? And that engagement that they've had of me putting myself out there is a golden opportunity to do so. So I have my photo front and center on my website. I have it in my profile images on all my socials. I have it in my content. Obviously, you see this peanut head everywhere, and I'm not the most beautiful face in the world. My gosh, we put ourselves out there. And, you know, for me, that second tip is if you do this, it's something you're known for. I said it before and I say it again, you know, putting yourself out there. And I even saw Gary Vee talk about this at the moment. If it's content, if it's your social presence, if you put yourself out there and you share and you give first to people, it's game changing. It opens doors unbelievably. You know, if you have the time, you have the opportunity, you always have something there to offer. You just need to kind of do it. You need to show your face. So consider having some of these up your sleeve as ideas of what you could do next from here. The first is, if you have a team especially, have team photos, or take some individual photos of yourself, hire a photographer. They're not all that expensive, or buy a camera, set it up, take some photos of yourself. It could be even your iPhone, you're just taking some selfies, or you're doing some stories on Instagram and videos on TikTok, even showing up on LinkedIn in the same fashion. It comes down to that impression of what you want to convey. If it's someone that's there and present and has some confidence, and over time, you'll find that confidence, especially if it's going to be on video, to show up, to be present, and to create what we all call content. The other one is, in terms of showing up and showing your face, is not just putting your face out there, it's consistently showing up. And at this point, if you have shown up and maybe you've gone a bit quiet and someone hasn't seen your face and you have made some content since and you haven't really been front and center, or people haven't got to know you in a while, reintroduce yourself, or introduce yourself if you haven't already. Introduce your team, new team members that come along, what they're into, what their interests are, what their role is, what impact that they want to make, and what questions they could answer for your customers. Now, I did this in my own post just last week. It kicks things off on a good foot, and it gives that insight into who your audience, who your consumers are engaging with. So give those a go. I really recommend it. And I'm going to follow this up with a little tip here, 3.1 or even 3.5, let's say, is sharing your name as well. If you can, even if it's just your first name. I go on Instagram sometimes and LinkedIn for businesses and just wonder who I'm talking to, because all I see is a business name, and then I go to their site and I don't see anything about who they are on their about page, all these kind of things. And I'm just like, who am I who am I talking to here? Can you please introduce yourself? So that's a little extra little bit there for you, if that's applicable to you. If you're a personal brand, my gosh, you need to put your name out there. But if you're a business, if you can share who's in the team, even if it's the main people that might engage, it's going to bring a nice little insight and a good little touch point into your business for your consumers to connect with. Kind of leading in or off that point, this way, that way, I'm not sure, I'm using my hands here. Are you revealing your location? It's very similar to tip 3, but I see this in personal brands quite a bit. But even businesses too, of not making it clear of where they're based. Look, it doesn't need to be your home address. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying put 1 Sydney Road, Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Come find me kind of thing. Come knock on my door, drop a bag of crap on the front door and run. It can be a general region. And I put that in my content or on my website that I'm in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney, Australia. It gives a general direction of where I am situated in the world. It gives a bit of context of who I am, where I'm based. And I can hear you saying if you're a type of business that is remote, I hear it. Don't worry, I hear it. I'm a remote-based business too. I work with people here in Australia and abroad. But there are advantages to telling somebody, making it clear of where you are based. Because there might be someone local to you or someone that used to live in that region or country or town, and you have right off the bat a connection point with that person. It's an icebreaker right there. It turns a cold lead into a much more warmer lead, or a warmer lead into even a hotter lead. And I've had that before. I've had locals I've worked with, and that's been an advantage to me. If you're in a different country, maybe you're in the subcontinent and you want to work with more affluent countries that you can charge more for your services, I get that as well. But there's no point beating around the bush, because if you're going to get in front of them on a Zoom call, they're going to know where you're from straight up. And you don't want to hide behind that veil and be something that you're not. Lean into who you are. Be open and honest. Know your value. Charge for it. And offer what you offer. Because I think that's far more authentic and far more genuine, and something that someone can respect more than someone that doesn't. This is my personal opinion, I got to say, but I see this play out a fair bit in wanting to know where someone is, and it gives a bit of clarity of who someone's engaging with, just the same as seeing their face. So I'll caveat it as well by saying not every business really needs to. I get it. That's totally fine, because you might be based anywhere. You might actually move remotely. That's totally fine. But I think if you can be open and honest about generally where you are located, what country you're in, or certain area, whatever it might be of that country, I think you should do it. So, it's one thing, especially in terms of location, at least. It's part of what makes up your brand, and it can be something that you can lean into with your brand. For me, case in point, G'day Frank. The G'day right there is a dead giveaway that I'm an Australian business. No one else in the world uses the phrase G'day. Maybe New Zealand possibly, but I think it's a very an Australian term, because everyone says have a good day, and that's just not really how you use it. It's a greeting. It's like saying hi or hello. And if you have ever heard of the term the 4 Ps marketing mix, it was a term coined by Kotler and McCarthy. I'm just having a look at my screen and remembering their names. If you do a Google search on the 4 Ps marketing mix, you'll find that out of those 4 Ps, one is placement. And in terms of placement, for how you market yourself, location is one aspect of that. Just the same as where you are situated on a shelf in a supermarket, placing yourself of where you are in the world, where you are based, where you come from, what your origin story is, all these kind of things taps into a greater understanding of what your brand identity is. That's a key word there. I'm a brand identity designer, and location can be very advantageous, and sometimes it might be part of even your niche of who you target. So those businesses is if you're not going to show your location. But I think this comes down to a lot of service-based businesses, a lot of remote-based businesses that aren't sharing a location. So consider that. See if that's worth its weight in gold, hopefully, and give it a try. It could be just something you put in your footer, just to give someone a bit of an understanding of where you're based, or a location tag in an Instagram post. Point 5, high five, is consistency in your brand image. As I said before, I'm a brand identity designer. This is my jam. I'm going to make you look consistent as possible so that you show up consistently, because it makes you memorable. It makes people remember you and recognize you a whole heap easier if you keep the things consistent. All the things. Your website, your flyers, your social media, even your signature can be something that is a hallmark of what your brand is. Now, if you take stock on all your touch points, assess them at this point of the year, look at what you have, and see whether or not you're keeping these 3 things consistent. Because these 3 things are typically what impacts the brand consistency of what we first engage with and we first recognize from a brand. The first one is colors. Keep your colors simple and use them like they're absolutely going out of fashion. I use pink till the cows come home. I paint my fingernails pink when I can. At the moment, I don't have them going because it chipped off. Ladies, I know where you're at. I have pink pens. You know, everything now is becoming pink, so I can become synonymous with the color. There's some other guys that use pink in the space that I'm in, but I'm owning it for those that know me and want to interact with me. You know, you want to interact with somebody with a color there because that's the first thing that they're going to see out of the corner of their eye. You know, you see McDonald's yellow from a mile away, let alone the golden arches. You know where you're at. So if we can make it a color or a smaller amount of colors, especially, don't go over a whole rainbow plethora of colors. If you can drill it down to 1, fantastic. 2, okay. 3, try not more than 3 main colors that we can go with, and keep using them until that's all your customers can see. They go to bed seeing your color. It's a bit full on, but it works. The other point is, number 2 here, is use 1 to 2 fonts. You might not think it makes all that much difference, but a font when used in certain ways, if it's in your logo, obviously, but in other bits of text, when someone's scrolling past, you might not always use the color front and center. I don't always use it, bang, there it is, pink. Sometimes it's the text that I put there, along with the imagery. But the text, try and keep that to 1 or 2 fonts, but try and keep as well the hierarchy of the text. So certain sizes, nice and big, and the next size is a certain size, and the next size is a certain size. So your paragraph font might be a certain type, style and type. Keep that consistent so that if they're going from your Instagram page to your website to maybe a brochure that you've given somebody and that looks consistent, we're good. Because it also helps consumers engage with your written content as well a lot easier. So if you've got some really good text hierarchy, read this, then read this, then read this, or whichever way the hierarchy needs to go. You know, they see similar reading patterns across all the different touch points that you have, so it makes it an easy experience to engage with. The last one here is try and have the same image style across all your photos, illustrations, graphics, icons, all these kind of things. You know, the photos especially, if you can have the same kind of filter even on your posts, on your imagery, on your website, in your brochures, in leaflets that you put out there, whatever it might be. Keep that style consistent, and it might require hiring a certain photographer each time that has a certain style that you like and keeping with that person, and you form a relationship with that person. They get to know you better, create even better photos for you and your team. But this can help convey a consistent feeling, at least, an emotion of what can help enhance your tone of voice. So if your imagery is playful and upbeat and looks nice and fresh, all these kind of things, it conveys some kind of emotion that people want to feel. If it's dark and moody and intense and it's for a gym, makes sense. But when it's used in parallel to your messaging, I think it can enhance that exponentially. So in hand, when all things come together, your logo, your imagery, your text, your personality, your tone of voice, everything comes together, we've got an identity here that really sells some kind of emotion. It creates this captivating moment to connect with your consumers. So some other ways that this can really make a difference by using things consistent, or making your touch points at least consistent, and creating an impact if you get it right, is it will make your life that little bit easier every time if you make things the same as you go. So it could be templates that you have for your social media content. Don't drift away from them. Try and keep them consistent. So you make it once, set and forget kind of thing. You just drop the new content in, away you go. Makes life easier. You can refer back to your brand guidelines if you have a brand guidelines document. It's something I give to my clients to know what fonts to use, what sizes to use, what logo, where, what imagery that they can basically use, what kind of look it needs to have, what kind of feel, what their messaging is, all those kind of things. It will obviously then, point 2 here, make it easier for your consumers to recognize you. I said it at the start, again, I just want to keep saying it so that you remember it and implement it. Not to mention, you'll look far, far more professional if you keep things across the board consistent here. So that when your consumers, as I said, look on your website, look on your social media, look on all these different things, even your ads, your packaging, it's all the same. It's well considered, it's thought out. There's some professional attitude and effort that has gone into making an experience that is consistent. So that way someone doesn't feel a bit like, oh, that's a little bit different there, and then that looks a bit different, and they're using a different type of logo here. And is this the same business? I think we've had that experience before. So this is why there's no real difference, no huge difference between any Starbucks you go to around the world. Same with McDonald's. They're all the same. So they should be. They're trying to offer a consistent experience so that you know what you're in for time and time again, so that you're not disappointed. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're expecting. You know what you want, what you need. They're going to deliver it. That's what you need to do too. And that's something you can do just from the image that you present to your consumers. Other things you can do, obviously, is the decor in your office space or your premises of your shop front, making that consistent, especially if you have several different business locations. Try and keep that consistency. It can have little different tweaks, but just these little bits and pieces that can create a consistency across the board, those similarities, good stuff. All right, like your last point, consider, and I've kind of touched on this a bit, consider content marketing instead of or in addition to your advertising. I'm not saying throw out your advertising. You don't need to necessarily do that. But if we're all consuming more and more here every day, we're being drummed home with ads all the time in between our posts and things, it's getting harder and harder to gain consumers' attention. So think about your brand as someone's favorite TV show. I used to work in television, so I know where I'm at with this. We tune in day after day or week after week for more episodes to watch. I do. I'm sure you do too. But over a time, you are developing this attachment with them, and it's to that show in that kind of context, but we're developing an attachment there. And the same can happen with you and your consumers if you're putting out organic content. You know, it might be something that leads somebody onto a sale. That's totally fine. But organic content marketing can be something that is something that I'm doing, at least. Creating a kind of sense of taking someone from a cold lead to a warm lead, so that it's introducing them to who you are, what you have to offer, how you do it differently, why you do it, all these things that Simon Sinek talks about. If you read the book, Start With Why. And it creates that sense of rapport to understand, is this something I need? You know, instead of going, I have this, buy me now kind of mentality, it's very brash, it's very abrupt, and it's very salesy. Whereas if you go in and you have the time and effort to create this long-standing relationship with someone, and you show up like a good TV show shows up, they don't just bugger off, is you're there for them. You make them feel like you're there for them, to educate them, to entertain them, to enlighten them, to connect with them, to share experiences with them. You can do all of this with content, and we have a great opportunity to do that. And as I said before, there was a great video on Gary Vee's site of exactly that. We have this opportunity. Now, paid advertising can get your name out there. I get that. Maybe do that as the first thing, but do your advertising as a way of funneling somebody down into your content rather than to your website to buy. For some consumer-based things, I get it, that works. But if someone has no idea who you are, sometimes seeing some content that give them a bit of an education onto who you are and what you have to offer can really help. Because, you know, as impressive as ROIs on, you know, ads can be sometimes, you know, we want to keep them around at least as well. So it might not be to get them to their first sale. It might be to keep them around to tell more people about you, or to be able to refer you on and come back for more and more sales. Because there's a known kind of fact here is that it can take up to 7 impressions for a consumer to decide whether or not to make a purchase with you in the first place. We want that repeat business too as a result of it. So the impact that this can have on your brand is, instead of serving up and paying for 7 ad impressions to get that number 7 up, your ads could be geared to, as I said before, funnel your audience, your new audience here, to an email list, to your social media platforms. And that way it gives you the opportunity to create content for them, to give more value in return for following you, for subscribing to your email list. And then that way, over time, every now and then you can put in a sale and just say, look, I'm offering this thing. Here's where you can find it. You're becoming a little less full on. And there's people out there obviously that are salesy and all the rest of it. It works. But for you, if that's not kind of you, and you want to go brand first rather than advertising first, this can be a way that you can do that. And you can start now with your content to create these little moments that can build and build and build into connections that are meaningful and lead to sales over time. That's how I've marketed my business since day one, and I'm still doing it. I don't pay for advertising. The other point here is showing up with your content can also improve your visibility, which leads to consumers keeping you top of mind in their mind. So they might not need you at the beginning, but over time, if you're showing up consistently, either for the first time buyers or for long time buyers, you're staying present, you're staying top of mind over competitors, or just for the certain need that they have when the time is right. So when winter comes around and you sell beanies, they're going to think of you. Some examples of the content that you could be creating, I guess, just to leave you with here, the last point is you can create how-to videos, how you do something, especially if you're crafty like my wife is, making earrings and jewelry. Show an insight into the complexity of what it is you do and the detail of work that you go into. This can additionally increase the appreciation of what it is you have as the final end product, to see how much work goes into it. I remember even watching like a documentary on how Coke bottles were made. You know, a Coke bottle to buy is, $1 to $2 off the shelf. But just the level of detail and the thought process and all the rest of it that goes behind it, it's like, wow, I actually kind of give a shit now. The other part is having customer testimonials, using them to your advantage, not just in text form from like a review that someone might leave on TripAdvisor or on Google reviews, taking it a little step further and encouraging your customers or your clients to leave a video testimonial. Maybe get out to them and record a video, or have a Zoom call, or do a podcast interview with them and create something that's verbal and visual, if you can do both, so that it's coming out of their mouth, not yours. Use it to your advantage, because that can likely create better trust than just you saying what it is you do and what you offer and what value you think you deliver and what the result's going to be. If they hear it from the horse's mouth of people that have experienced, they're more than likely to want to engage with you more than you just telling them that they should. You can tell them how much you're worth it, but no one's going to listen sometimes. So I'm going to leave it there because that was quite long. That's nearly an hour. Far out. That went quick. From here, it really comes down to what you're going to do next. I wanted to make that actionable, so giving you some tips that you can take and put into practice. They're small things, they can be big things. No matter where you're at in your journey here in the brand space, use them to your advantage to take all these little things, put them together, and over time you're building this brand into something that is more than just what it is you sell. And you can do this by putting it down on paper, saying, what am I going to do here? What do I need to do? How am I going to achieve what I need to achieve? And this is something that I did at the start of the year. Come January 1, I was like, okay, I need to be a man with a plan here. I need to know where I'm going here. I need to have a direction. And this is something that I do with my clients, is what is that brand direction going to be, either in the first 6 months of this year, the full 12 months, and then even beyond. Whatever next step you take doesn't need to be an end be all end all. It doesn't need to be everything you put so much pressure on yourself to do. Just the little things can help. Reintroduce yourself on social media. Take a photo of yourself, pop it in your stories and go, hello, this is me, or this is my team. But if you can make a consistent effort throughout the year, I can see it paying off dividends, because consistency is the hardest thing you can do in branding. And that's the challenge that we're all faced with. And because it becomes what we're known for most, it's a hallmark of our brand, of being known, being recognized, being remembered, and being shared to others, and to be known for more than what we sell, to create captivating moments of connection from clarity. Happy New Year. All the best. And look, I'll see you in the next 2 weeks, because this is something that is going to be a not bi-weekly, that's 2 times a week, fortnightly, so every 2 weeks event here. So every second week I'm going to be doing more creative things to share my work, to share a little bit of fun here and there, to give some tips to creatives specifically. So with this, if you're looking at this on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Same with the podcast. If you haven't, leave a like, leave a review, leave a comment, whatever you want to do. Send me a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn. Send me an email. There's links in the descriptions here. And from there, I want to say, a big warm welcome to 2022. I know it's been a big... Oh. I'm on my YouTube and I haven't even got it up there. I need to do this. There we go. It's been a big year, and from here, I want to wish you all the best with your brand and what it is that you do from here on out, because I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge potentially, no matter where we are in the world and what kind of situation we're in. 2021 was a bit of a crap one potentially for you. 2022, I think, will be a better one if we plan ahead. We know what's coming for us now. And from there, look, if we can get there, we can get there. But if we can do it with some planning for our brand, I think we'll get there. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and look forward to seeing you. If you haven't connected with me already, podcast, my blog, and my Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can find me there. And then very, very soon will be TikTok as well. So from there, I wish you all the best. Happy New Year. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye.